Hello, everybody. David's already asleep, so you're stuck with me tonight. I have a confession. A little confession. I had a psychiatrist appointment last week, and she always asks very typical questions to begin with, of course. How do you rate your health? Are you still enjoying your hobbies? Are you sleeping a lot or a little, or what quality is your sleep? All your basic real standard questions that a psychiatrist is going to ask. And, but I kind of lied. I was having a much harder time than what I told her I was having. I was having some very deep depression. I barely got out of bed that day. I wanted to call and cancel the appointment, but I know that would have been a bad idea. It was that bad. I was having suicidal thoughts. I never made any plans, and I never really posed a danger to myself. That's part of the reason why I lied to her. Because I knew that she would try to get me to do and take things that I don't really need to do. I just happen to have been having a bad day. No matter how well your medicine works, you're going to have bad days. So, let me get to why I lied to her. I told her I was okay. I told her, yeah, I was a little depressed, and a little anxious, but, she's used to that for me. That's just kind of a constant when we have our appointments. There were several reasons why I lied to her. I have them written down here, and I will just go through them one by one. One, I didn't want to go inpatient. I knew that if I had told her how bad my depression was and how bad the suicidal thoughts were, the closing of my eyes and seeing very bad scenarios, very scary scenarios that I don't want to describe because I don't want to trigger anybody, but they were bad. And if I were to tell her about them, she probably would have tried to get me to go inpatient at our local hospital that has a nice psych ward. I've been to that psych ward twice already since I moved here to Iowa 3 years ago, and then I was also at a psych ward at a different hospital about an hour from here, because my normal hospital was full at the time. So, since I moved here 3 years ago, I have been in the psych ward 3 times. I don't want to do that again. I have nothing against the psych wards. The doctors and nurses, like the one that I go to here, closest to my house when I can get in, they have, really great doctors and nurses, and they're really adamant about learning who you are, your history, and how they can help you. It's just, I didn't want to go in because I didn't want to be away from David, and I didn't want to be away from my cat, and I didn't want to be away from my mom, and I didn't want to be away from my apartment. I didn't want to be, my agoraphobia was kicking in a lot, and my generalized anxiety disorder was kicking in a lot, so I know that if I went to a place that I wasn't 100% familiar with, it just would have made it worse. So going inpatient would have defeated the purpose of going inpatient. Another reason is I didn't want to deal with any more medication or any adjustments to the medication I'm on. Because like I said before, I was just having a bad day. That's all it really was. Well, bad couple of days. It was a little cluster of downtime. And, yeah, I knew if I told her everything, she would either up one of my medications or change one of my medications. And normally I'm having good days lately. I do get really depressed at night. That'll be a different video because I have an explanation for that, but that'll take a while to explain. But it's still within my control. I don't need to go inpatient for this because this is all stuff I can do on my own. There's no point in wasting a bed on me. When somebody else needs that bed worse than me. Because beds are very limited in the mental health community all over the country. Mental health has come a long way in the last 30 or so years in this country. I'm not sure how it is in other countries, but I know the standards in this country. It has come a long way, but it still has a long way to go, too. And finding a bed sometimes requires going to a different city, sometimes even a different state. They try to keep you within the state, but mainly for like insurance reasons and stuff like that. The one hospital that I got sent to that wasn't my normal hospital was a horrible hospital that I never want to go to again. It was filthy, the staff was rude, the food was ferocious. It was just all in all a bad experience. I hated that hospital and I never want to go there again. And but my main hospital here, I love it. I love it here, but like I said, they're limited on beds, and I didn't want to take a bed from somebody who needed it worse than me. I knew I could control my problem on my own, so that's why I didn't tell her the truth about that either. It takes me a while to trust people, especially professionals that I'm going to be working with on a very intimate, personal basis. And she's my psychiatrist right now. She's great. I adore her. She's smart. She's willing to work with me. She listens. But I just still haven't hit that level of trust yet that I need to hit to be comfortable telling her everything that I'm going through. And there were things that I was going through that day that I would not have felt comfortable talking about, even if I was telling her the truth about everything. Also, like, related to wasting beds, I also didn't want to waste her time. They are very busy there. It's a low-income clinic for people who are on disability or people who are on welfare or people who have no insurance. It's a clinic for those. I'm on disability and I've got Medicare, so Medicare, that's the only place Medicare will let me go. The only problem is with low-income clinics, they have a high turnover rate when it comes to employees because there are higher paying jobs out there for doctors and nurses and stuff. So once they find a better job, they usually leave. And so because of that, I've experienced that many, many times of therapists or psychiatrists saying, okay, I have another job, I'm leaving, just to let you know, here's your new doctor, here's your new therapist, here's whatever. And then I always feel like I have to start all over, and I hate that feeling. Even if they have all my medical history right there in front of them, they still want to hear my story, which is understandable. They need to know my story, but it's just, oh my God, doing it over and over and over and over and over. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. So because of all these doctor switchings, it does take me a while to build up a level of trust with the doctors, because I'm afraid that once I finally trust them enough to be able to be comfortable telling them anything, they're going to turn around and leave for a better paying job. Which I don't blame them. If I had a job and somebody offered me something better, I'll take it. I mean, you know. And I totally understand. They're all looking for better jobs because low-income clinics just don't have the funding to pay their doctors very well. So, yeah, and I didn't want to waste your time. Because of the turnover rate, there's waiting lists. It's hard to get in to see somebody. And I knew that she had patients that needed to see her that day that were way worse than I was. And leading up to that, there's also follow-up appointments. If I'm healthy, if I'm doing good, our follow-up is generally once every 3 months. I saw her last week. It is March. My next appointment is in June. Now, if I had started talking to her about the problems that I was having, not only would she want me to go inpatient, but once I got out of inpatient, she'd want to see me more frequently. Like when I first started seeing her, when she was getting to know me and my history and my personality, I was seeing her once every week or two. And normally I don't have too much of a problem seeing doctors frequently, except for the fact that I don't have transportation. I have to rely on my mom, and and my doctor is about 40-minute drive away, and I don't want her to have to make that drive every other week, you know, and waste all that gas and waste the doctor's time. I just want to go in do my 3-month checkup. If things are really bad, then I'll tell her. If they are bad enough that I know I can't control them, then I will tell her. But if they're bad enough that I can control, but she would still raise an eyebrow at, that's when I'm not going to tell her. Last thing would be she would probably recommend me going back into therapy. And I've been in therapy for like over 15, 16 years, maybe even longer than that. And it's great for when you're learning and when you actually do have things you need to talk about. But there's really nothing going on in my life right now that I desperately need to talk to a therapist about. And there's, really not much a therapist could tell me at this point that I haven't already heard time and time again. So, yeah, so there you go. That's to complete real quick. I lied to her for these reasons. I didn't want to go inpatient. I didn't want to deal with new medication to pay for because my medications can get kind of pricey. I still didn't have that complete level of trust with her, but that's building and that's taking care of itself. Didn't want to waste her time. Didn't want to waste a bed in the hospital. Didn't want to increase the frequency of my follow-up appointments. 3 months right now is working for me. I like it once every 3 months. And I didn't want to see a therapist because it would just be a waste of the therapist's time and my time. Because there are people who need the therapist worse than I do. There are people who need the beds worse than I do. And there are people who need to see that psychiatrist worse than I do. So, I'm just afraid that if I told her everything that was going on in my mind, she would disagree with what I just said. So, anyway, I lied to my doctor. I don't condone doing it. Don't lie to your doctor. Seriously, because with me, I knew what I was going through, but that's only because I've had a lot of experience with this, and I also was a psych major when I was in school before I got really sick. And I remember everything I learned there, so a lot of people don't have that. They don't have that knowledge, they don't have that experience. They're the ones that need to go to therapy. And they're the ones who need to tell the truth to their doctors. They need to let their doctors do their job. The doctors know what they're doing, for the most part. I've had a couple of questionable ones in my time, but yeah, they're everywhere. But yeah, don't lie to your doctor like I did. I probably won't do it again in the future. I don't regret it right now because obviously I was right. I'm home. I'm fine. I'm not in the hospital. I'm not hurting myself. I'm not thinking about suicide. I was just having a really, really rough time when I saw her. But I'm getting better on my own without the hospital. So, anyway, take a quick drink. I need some mouth dry. Cheers. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.